9 months ago, I stood in front of a few councillors and a couple of volunteers, and I said something that a great hero of mine once said, it was Martin Luther King, and I said I had a dream. And I said one day that dream will be to see Torbay as a dementia-friendly community, and also the first ever dementia-friendly resort, not only in the UK, in the UK, but in the world. As Ian's already said, we are so far in front of everybody else, and we are doing so well with it. We've got this wagon rolling. I always like to think of it as like a dementia juggernaut. You know, the juggernaut's rolling now, and we've got to keep it going. I had a meeting in March, as you know, so with David Cameron, and it was one of the most, it's got to be the highlights, regardless of what politics you believe in. It had to be the highlights of one of the highlights of my life. Yes, I was sat next to him, and yes, I quite possibly did give it this, because I don't quite know if it, but he sat and he listened to what was going on, and you know, take the politics away. Let's remember that this guy is the first Prime Minister ever to say, right, we're going to hit dementia head on. That was one of the most historical things that came out of that day, because he's the first man to actually stand there and say, this is what we're going to do. He pledged over 35 to 45 million pounds, and yes, he probably got his ear bent a little bit, but a little dicky bird tells me that not long after, a certain Ian Sharif had a meeting with him, and I believe he turned around to him and said something along the lines, this has got to be forever. This is not just affairs you're going through. This has got to be something that you've got to follow up, and the next government, and the next government. So I'm not the other one that's given Mr Cameron a bit of stick about what's going on. I was so lucky, because I did promise him that I would keep him updated on how we're doing in Torbay, because I'm so proud of what everybody's doing here in Torbay. I actually got a letter off him signed as well. eBay, you haven't looked at it. And it actually says, Dear Mr Norman McNamara, thank you for your email of 19th of June. It was good of you to get in touch, and I'm grateful for you attending the launch of my Dementia Challenge in March. I am very much welcome the work you are doing, and you have done with businesses and others in Torbay to create, remember them words guys, to create a dementia-friendly community. If anybody says who was the first dementia-friendly community in the UK, it's you guys. You're in it. You are part of the first ever dementia-friendly community in the UK. And I, for one, think that's something very proud to be very proud of. I was very pleased to get a personal update from the Dementia Friendly Communities Champions Group back in May 24th, when I met with the group and it was updated on the progress that had been achieved across the country. It was good to hear about the developments in a wide range of sectors, including retail, banking, the fire service, police services and local government. As I'm sure you know from your experience in Torbay, the important point is whatever changes are made are going to have a real impact on people's day-to-day lives. I am looking forward to getting a further update on all aspects of the Dementia Challenge in the autumn, and in the meantime, do keep up the great work you are all doing in Torbay. P.S. Don't forget the 5-year-old who live now. That was a tremendous day. That was an absolutely wonderful day. And I was also lucky enough to be interviewed by Angela Rippon, who is also a very, very, very nice lady as well. I like to say that I was diagnosed age 50 with Alzheimer's type dementia. The first 18 months was absolutely awful, I believe, because I don't remember that much about it. And what I do remember is what Elaine's told me, because the story's been told so many times. It resonates, even with somebody with dementia. It got to a stage where I'd been up to Bolton to see my mum, and I came home 2 weeks later, and I had no memory of it whatsoever. 3 weeks later, I set the kitchen on fire. Not that I'm a bad cook. Let's get that straight. But purely and simply because I'd forgotten it was on the grill, and I sat there quite happily with the alarm going off, the smoke went all around me, and it was a neighbour who came down, and then eventually Elaine came home as well. And even though I had the fire alarm and I had the thing, I just didn't know what was going on. And I'm quite lucky to be studying today. Within a couple of years after that, I was given a drug called Exelon, which didn't really do me that good. So Elaine has 30 years in the care service, looking after other people. So in one way, I'm one of the luckiest guys in the world, because I've got a wife that's got all the experience. She refused to take no for an answer and took me down to the Chadwell clinic in Paignton. I was then given a drug called Ebixa. Remember that name, because I'd like you all to remember it. Within 3 months, I got my life back. Within 3 months, this is who you see now. Stood here, yes, I do struggle a little bit more these days. And yes, I do have to look at the paper these days, where I probably didn't do 6 months ago. But I haven't the way on because of that drug. One thing I'd like to say to everybody, it is not a cure. It is definitely not a cure, but what it has done has given me 2 years, 3 years of my life back when I wouldn't normally have had. I was in a fog. It was like in a suspended animation, that's all I can put it down to. It was like I was looking through life through net curtains, and I couldn't quite make what was going on. That's the only way I can explain it, really. And then within 3 months of taking this drug, what you see now, apart from the night times, is who I am. Now, it doesn't work for everybody, but it worked for some people, it worked for me. And if I say I probably had the best 2 years of my life, that probably sounds so strange to some people. But I have, because I've spent 2 years longer with not only my family and my children, but my grandchildren, of whom I've got many. Believe me, I've got lots of. And just for that, I'm just so grateful. People say that you can count your friends on 2 hands in your lifetime. And there's certainly, you're all friends, believe me, you're all friends. But there's one guy here who I would definitely count as one of those, and he stood right there now. He's called Ian Sheriff. When I first started this doing speaking, and when the Alzheimer's Society had the confidence in me to ask me if I wanted to start speaking and doing conferences, I went to a conference, and the first person I saw was Ian. I can't remember what it was, but I know you were the first person I saw him I spoke to. And when I saw Ian stood up, as he did then, talking to people, and he is such an inspiration, I stood there that day and I thought, and I know I'm embarrassing, that's who I want to be like. That's what I want to do. And from that day on, that's what I've tried to do, is to be like, not be like Ian, but be as passionate as Ian, and be as resourceful, hopefully, but as enthusiastic. I am enthusiastic, but I must admit that gentleman there was my inspiration for doing what I do now. Dementia is not an acceptable part of ageing. It is not a part of ageing. It's a natural disease of the brain. 100 years ago, a certain Dr. Alzheimer's turned around and said he named it Alzheimer's disease. The lady who we named the disease after was 53. Only 53. Now, somewhere down the eons of time, last 100 years, we've forgotten that. So now people automatically think dementia, Alzheimer's, Lewy bodies, old person, sat there, don't mention wingback chairs, Debbie. And that's all there is to it. When I was diagnosed at 50, I kind of had an idea something might happen. I lost my father and I lost my grandmother to Alzheimer's. So I suppose I kind of knew that it was always in the offing. But it still comes as such a shock. I thought that was it, I was over. I've been diagnosed with heart failure 7 years prior. So I thought, well, that is definitely it, my life's over now, I'm on the scrap heap. But this is where I start to say this is because of not only the support I've had from my family and friends, but from the Alzheimer's Society. Because when they asked me to come along to speak, and when they asked me to say, what do you think, Norman? What do you think we should do? You've got dementia. What do you think we should do? And I thought, you know, back in the game. I come from a management background, and I felt I'd be just thrown on a scrap heap. And then all of a sudden, I was being asked my opinion again. what do you think we should do? It was an amazing feeling. And then the next thing I know, me and Elaine are both on the Southwest Steering Group for Dementia Action, for the Dementia Alliances. We've worked together for quite a while now on that, and we've another meeting coming up in October, which we're looking forward to. Things are changing. Things are changing for the better, and to be asked to be involved in things like that gives you just so much confidence back.